This
70.
conference will now be recorded.
Well, yes, I forgot to remind you to record. Yes, so.
Thank you.
As I understand it, 75% of the proceeds received from the Federal CARES Act must be used for payroll, and then 25% can be used for other expense. In my discussions with business advisors, they are nervous about that 25%, because if you go over even the slightest amount, then the loan might not be forgiven. So they are directing businesses to be very careful about how they use those proceeds and to keep them mostly to payroll. So again, that CARES Act, while it does carve out some portion for some of those other business expenses, I'm not exactly sure how much of that money is going to be used for that. So again, I think the proposal we're putting in front of the board sort of addresses some of that gap. We obviously know that the funding was, used up very quickly. Now, granted, I believe today, I don't know if they finally passed it, but I know the Congress is looking to pass an additional funding. As we're reading the news, you can see that much of that small business money went to large businesses. So again, I think I guess my point in that is, there still is an urgent need for this. I believe there is a gap in terms of supporting our businesses. I think this does fit that gap. So again, the timeliness is important here. And then just quickly on the program, with respect to the board's feedback that we got, we did enhance, I would say, and clarify the eligibility criteria, both for clarity to the community and to requesters, as well as for processing of the application. So I think we've tightened that up a lot to the board's request. I think that's a good list now. And the other thing I would say we enhanced was, I believe we incorporated all of the board's recommendations with respect to oversight, CDA final approval of the loan amounts, oversight by myself and a designate from the board to make sure that the funds are being used appropriately. So those were my just quick thoughts for the board. With that, I will turn it back over to Trustee Warren.
Thank you, Peter. Very much appreciate your thoughts, and thank you for your hard work on this program and bringing it back to the board here tonight. We appreciate it. I'll follow the same procedure that I followed last time, which is to look at my screen and go around to each trustee for input as I see you on my screen. So it's a little bit randomized, and I apologize for that. But Trustee McKay, you are the first trustee up on my screen, so I'd like to call on you for any input. I think you're on mute, Trustee McKay.
All right, we're live. Thank you. I don't think I have much to add. I support the proposal that's in front of us. I understand, I sat in on the CDA meeting last week and heard the discussion around adding the clause to reserve the right to ask for the money back if the business moves out of Shorewood within 6 months. I'm not crazy about that amendment, but I would not have it be a sticking point this evening if it's the difference between passing this and not passing it. And I also, I support the other discussion that's been offered this evening.
Thank you, Trustee McKay. Trustee Carpenter, you are next on my screen.
And
Trustee Carpenter? I think you're still muted.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Now we can't.
Okay. Yeah, I've had the opportunity. No, sorry. I'm having all sorts of technical issues. Can you hear me or no?
We can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. I've had the opportunity to sit through the bid meetings as well as sit in on all of the CDA calls.
Trustee Carpenter, you're frozen now.
Are
okay.
with the.
Maybe she should try calling in.
Yeah, Trustee Carpenter, is there a way that you could dial in for your audio?
Trustee Carpenter? Yeah, why don't we let Trustee Carpenter dial back in through audio, and I'll I'll skip to next on my list, which is Trustee Maher. Trustee Carpenter, we'll come right back to you as soon as we get as soon as the technical issues clear up.
Okay. I had a chance to sit in on the last CDA meeting, and I think a lot of the questions that the board had have been answered, and the program as proposed is much more tighter. I think it'll be much clearer to the applicants, a little less confusion in the implementation. I do think it's important that we move forward fairly rapidly here, because any delay, the use of the money really deteriorates as we go out from here, and it's critical they get the funds quickly to keep in business. I did sit in on the CDA meeting. I wasn't able to ask any questions. Since the meeting, I did have some comments or clarifications that we may want to address, or at least verbally confirm how they should be administered. One thing is in item 4, the eligible businesses under retail trade. I would suggest we add florist. I went through the list of businesses in 2014 by category, and florists aren't listed. I'm just thinking, as business owners pick this document up, that they clearly know where they fall in the eligibility. Under services, I guess services, opticians, we have a number of glassware, optical firms in the village. Maybe call them out in the list. Then under number 5, the ineligible businesses. We have professional offices, but that's pretty broad, if I was a business, I may not know clearly if I'm eligible or not. I looked through the 2014 lists. We have not called out lawyers, which is one of our biggest business sectors, real estate agents, insurance agents, accounting services, physicians. Those are not listed. There's under services, there was, or clinics, health and wellness practitioners, but I don't think that covers physicians. And then computer services, which we have a few of those, and the financial services, kind of the brokerage people, and we have a number of those in the village. I would suggest that lawyers, real estate agents, insurance agents, accounting services, physicians, computer services, and financial services be added to category 5, and that we retain professional offices to cover any that are not covered here. The other comment I had was, Trustee Warren had added very language on in an event the person moves out of the village, Shorewood, within 6 months. If we are going to make some clarification modifications, I think within 6 months from the date of the grant award check, so we know when the 6 months start if we ever have to implement that, so there's no confusion about it's not the date of the application, it's not the date of receipt, it's the date on the check award. Then one other comment I had, and we've gotten a number of emails from small business owners, and one is office sharing. There's a work sharing business, Malamado. I think that's how you pronounce it. It sounds like the primary person pays the rent, and it probably holds the occupancy permit, which is a requirement of the grant program. But then we got an email from one of the subleasing one of the businesses that use that workspace, saying, oh, I think I'm going to, I pay money to the overall business owner. Am I going to be assuming they were going to participate? I don't think under the program as presented, if they don't hold the occupancy permit, that person would not be eligible. And that might have, I mean, there's salons, beauty salons where people rent chairs. They aren't the owner of or paying the rent on the overall space. Or lawyers, so there's some lawyers that office share where one lawyer actually rents and operates the space and people buy offices out of that shop. And I think if we go down that road, it would be very complicated, because if we're basing the grants on the total rent for the space and then there's subleases or sub-tenants, you're going to be doubling up on the rent, because first person gets the money for the overall rent, and then the sub-tenants would get also. So I would suggest, if that is how that we at least acknowledge that this, you have to be hold the occupancy permit to avoid any confusion on that. So those were my comments. I do support the program as presented. I think it's a great program, and I'd like to see us move forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Maher. Trustee Carpenter, coming back to you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties, so you can hear me now better, right?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Overall, I think that we've made a lot of really important improvements since the last go around with some changes with the CDA. And like Trustee Maher said, there's actually only one slight modification that I noticed was included, which was therapists. And I know that as I was logging back in, I think I had heard Trustee Maher saying that there were some professions that, correct me if I'm wrong, Trustee Maher, but that you were looking to have excluded from the program that could be performing their services virtually, like lawyers. And I think psychiatrists and psychologists, I know many of them are performing their services virtually as well and keeping their same caseload. So I don't know that they should also be eligible to participate in the program, just if their businesses are able to continue to operate at a similar capacity as they were before. So that's my only comment. I am excited for this to move forward, hopefully move forward tonight. I plan on supporting it when we get to voting. So thank you for coming back around.
Thank you, Trustee Carpenter. Trustee Amenta, I see you next on my screen.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I would support Trustee Carpenter's point that mental health counselors and psychiatrists are able to continue operating and are not in the same situation as a massage therapist or acupuncturist, where you need somebody's body right there with you. So I would support moving them from number 4 to number 5. The only comment I have, I do think the program is improved. The only comment I would have is to remind the CDA that they are both concerned with economic development, but they're also the housing authority for the village. And we have a wide variety of income levels and rent and mortgage amounts in the village, and that's one of the great things and unique things about Shorewood. And I think there's going to be renters, and Trustee Warren and I both discussed this at the last meeting, but there may be people who can no longer afford the rent here, and I'm not sure why our interest in helping, I don't think we should limit our interest in helping in these extraordinary and hopefully short-lived time. I don't want to limit us to only the business district. I think we need to also think about some of our lower income residents. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Trustee Amenta. Trustee Backhorst, you are the next trustee on my list. Trustee Backhorst?
Where's Hollister?
Trustee Backhorst? You're talking, you're on mute. Okay, well, while we wait for Trustee Backhorst to resolve her technical issues, I guess I'll give my comments. You know, I first off, as I said before, you know, thank you, Peter, for and thank you, members of the BID, for driving this forward. And
What happened? Shit.
Wesley, we can't hear you. Wesley?
I think Ann takes over chair.
Oh, he's.
Rebecca, can you ask Wes to repeat his comments, please?
I will. I'm going to text him. He's not muted, but he is.
Yeah, his microphone's not working.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe he can call in. Hello?
Trustee Backhorst?
Yeah, sorry, I had to call back in because, hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. So I guess I had to put the audio pin for you guys to hear me in, so I had to call back in and do all that. So forgive me. So I heard all kinds after or before me.
You know, we're actually just trying to get Wesley's communication back. We're not able to hear him right now, and he's working on it.
Oh, okay. So no one spoke after I was called on.
I believe that
Davida.
Dr. Davida, correct. So Trustee Ward, he's actively working on logging in right now.
I gotcha. Okay.
And then
cool.
when he
So
gets
make sure I
back
didn't miss anything.
okay.
Wesley, we might be able to hear you now.
Can he call in?
That's what I think. Yes, I've suggested that he call in. He's working on it.
Okay.
I'm gonna make some signs for the next meeting. We can't hear you. Please call in.
Do you want to go, Trustee McCaig, do you want to go to Trustee Backhorst while we wait?
I wouldn't want Trustee Warren not to be able to hear.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to wait for him to get on the call.
Otherwise, I would.
He just motioned one more second. He's good at communicating without sound.
Yeah.
I want to make sure you can hear me again. This is Tammy.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello?
Okay.
Yes,
Hello?
Wesley.
We're all here.
So, my apologies for that. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And to let you know, we haven't done anything since we weren't able to hear you before. So when you started to make your comments, you went quiet. So we're just waiting for that brief intermission, and now you're back on. And Trustee Backhorst is also on.
So you didn't hear anything I said?
No.
No.
It's one of the most
was brilliant.
It was brilliant.
Public speaking I've ever done. The minutes did reflect that too. Trustee Backhorst, you're here next up.
Okay, great, thanks. And I would recommend going forward that if you're able to, call on the next two people, you know what I mean? So the person on deck or in the hole can get ready. So anyway, so yeah, I heard everyone's comments, and I thought there was a lot of thoughtful, and I thought I'm really impressed with what you guys have been able to put together. Oh God, that sounds really bad. There's some feedback here. All right. And I would like to say that I really appreciated what both Trustee McKeag and Trustee Maher had said. And thank you, Mike, I'm going to push you guys to take out my ear pods. Let me try this. Hold on. Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Yeah. Unbelievable.
We can hear you.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We got you.
Okay, well, I'm just going back to the ear pods. Okay, so I would say that I appreciate those comments. I also appreciate what Trustee Carpenter had mentioned regarding, the loss of income. If we cannot document that, I don't want to speculate that that's happening, and I wouldn't want that to hold up the whole venture. And I also agree, as Trustee Maher had mentioned, and then also as far as Trustee Amenta had mentioned, I too like the idea of keeping, looking forward at the housing situation, but also looking at the federal government. And given that we do have some legislation now, I do appreciate that we're focusing on keeping the businesses, given that there are other options available for renters and others. So I would support the proposal as stated, but I do, if there were one significant change, I would bring in the one that Trustee, not Maher, but McKeag had mentioned.
Thank you, Trustee Backhorst. Okay, can everyone hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it was terrifying when I saw the village attorney doing like this to me as I was talking. I was like, I didn't think I said anything that controversial. Nevertheless, I'll try to replicate my comments from before. First off, thank you to CDA Chair Hammond. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you to the BID as well for your work on this program. I think that in the 2 weeks since our last meeting, this program is in a much better place. I agree with the comments that have been made about the increased oversight, the really well-defined eligibility criteria for the program. I feel like both those things have gotten better exponentially since we last saw the program. I do support the program as presented. I agree with Trustee. Let me modify that a bit. I do agree with some of the comments that have been made around slight tweaks we can make tonight. I do support the program. I agree with Trustee Maher's earlier thoughts that this is something that needs to be done fast. We're in the middle of an unprecedented situation, and speed is of the essence here. So I really appreciate all the efforts of the combined team here and putting this together and presenting it to us. I think hopefully it sounds like we're, widely we have consensus on a lot of things on this, subject to a few tweaks potentially. So with that, I was wondering if we had any motion from the floor.
I have one question for clarification.
Sure.
With Trustee Marr's comment about the occupancy permit, that is in the program right now, right? Clearly stated, or is an amendment required?
I think it's that.
They must present their occupancy permit as part of their process. So they need to be in good standing with respect to that. This is Peter Hammond.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Number 2 on the in the program criteria eligibility.
That's all I had.
This is Trustee Marr. I would make a motion to approve the adoption of Addendum 2 of the MOU between the Village of Shorewood and the CDA with modifications to the proposed CDA Emergency Business Assistance Grant Program. Changes being under item 4, retail trade, add florist. Under item 4, services, add opticians. Under item 4, clinics of, remove health counselors / psychiatrists and move them to item 5. Under 5, I would add under the ineligible categories, the mental health counselors, psychiatrists, as I mentioned, add lawyers, real estate agents, insurance agents, accounting services, physicians, computer services, and financial services. And under the 9th paragraph in program administration, the clause saying in event that a business moves out of Shorewood within 6 months, I would add after 6 months from the date of the grant award check. That is my motion.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Well, I have one thing that I'd like to add, and I think we're covered here, but it struck me just to make it very clear in the actual application form itself. I would like to move that we add a line to the application form. Funds are to be used for business purposes. I'm making that motion. It's an amendment. Yes, I move to amend to add that line to the application form. I think it's clear. I think if you read it, if you read the whole thing, it's clear. But it's nice to have that also on the application form just to be extra clear. So I'd make that motion to amend.
I'd second that. This is Trustee Bachhorst.
The motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have one question. I have one question for the group. Are there any concerns that the language around reserving the right to ask for the money back creates an administrative burden or an issue of enforcement?
Trustee McKay, do you mind if we take that after we take? Do you mind if we tack back around to that after we clear the motion?
Oh yes, yeah.
I'll come right back to you.
Okay, apologies.
So,
Can I just ask? Can I ask a question? This is Davida.
Sure.
Mike, what was your thinking around computer services, including that in the ineligible?
Because they can do that virtually. I would imagine all the people doing website changes or any programming, they can do that over the internet. And I would think they would be able to do that without not relying on face-to-face traffic. So,
Oh, okay, I just wasn't,
yeah.
thank you for clarifying.
Trustee Warren,
Yeah,
Clerk Bruckman was wondering if we could go through the motion one more time to make sure that we recorded it correctly.
Sure. Do you mind if we just, I just want to get through the amendment, and then can we
Sure.
reread the motion? I don't want to have too much on the floor. I'm trying to clear the floor a little bit, if you guys don't
Got it.
mind. So we have a amendment and a second. Do we have any more discussion on the amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Can we do a roll call?
Go
Do
through
roll
it.
call.
Well, I'd like, do we need to hear the amendment again? Does anyone need to hear it? I kind of would.
The whole thing.
So
No,
what I
this is just the amendment.
Yeah, Sarah, would you give us the amendment
have
again?
a line that funds are to be used for business purposes.
Would you give us one more time, Sarah? You cut out a little bit at the beginning. Sorry.
Sorry. The amendment was to add a line saying funds are to be used for business purposes.
In the application.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so any further discussion on the amendment? Then we'll tack back to the actual motion itself, reread that, and go. Trustee McKay, I have you first in line for that discussion. Okay, so hearing no further discussion, I guess, do I call roll call? Okay, I'll go. Trustee Maher.
Yes.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye.
Trustee Backhorst.
Yes.
Trustee McKay.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Yes.
I will vote aye as well. Now, Clerk Sarah, would you like to read the actual motion, and then we'll come to Trustee McKay for her question on the administration.
The amended motion.
I'm
Amended,
missing portions of the additions from Trustee Maher that was added and moved around between items 4 and 5. So I don't have clear documentation on those items. So if we could just recap those, Trustee Maher, I would really appreciate it.
I will go through it again. I move to approve the adoption of Addendum 2 of the MOU between the Village of Shorewood and the CDA with the following modifications to the CDA Emergency Business Assistance Grant Program document. Under item 4, eligible businesses, retail trade, add florists. Under item 4, services, add opticians. Under item 4, clinics of, remove mental health / psychiatrists. Under item 5, the ineligible businesses, add mental health counselors / psychiatrists. Also add lawyers, real estate agents, insurance agents, accounting services, physicians, computer services, and financial services. Under the second to the last paragraph in program administration, which states in the event that a business moves outside of Shorewood within 6 months, add after 6 months from the date of the grant award check. That's the motion.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Maher. Now, I'll lob it over to Trustee McKay.
Thank you, Trustee Warren. I just wanted to raise a question to staff as to, are there any concerns about the additional language of reserving the right to ask for the money back based on the 6-month move out? Does that raise an issue of enforcement or administrative burden?
Well, I'll jump in on that. This is Mark Emanuelson. I don't believe so. I think the board and CDA would probably want to do a 6-month look back in any case to see what has changed in the community, and any applicant who received funds that's no longer in the community after 6 months because they've moved, would certainly follow up with and in that regard. So it's pretty straightforward from my perspective.
Yeah, I'll go with the question.
Anyone else with any further comments on the motion on the floor?
Yeah, Trustee Warren, are we going to ask for public comment on this? I mean, I know there's been quite an interest in it, and I assume there's members of the public on the call.
Yeah, and I'd also, this is Trustee Backhorst, I'd like to also ask a question prior to that.
Sure. Trustee Backhorst, just one housekeeping measure before we go over to you. Rebecca, did we set up the meeting so that we can ask for public comments, or is this a meeting where we wanted all comments in advance? I think that's a good point.
The meeting set up that if you desire to hear public comment, you may hear that.
Okay. So, Trustee Backhorst?
Thank you. So you can hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So I did have, so forgive me. So this is via the CDA. This isn't in concert with the bid, or is it? I guess where I'm going, the reason I'm asking that is because I wondered if it were in concert with the bid, if we wanted to include something else. So I'll hold my second point.
Trustee Warren, can I respond to that?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, so this has been in support and in connection with the bid. A lot of the language regarding the application process came directly from several of the bid members.
But I guess where I'm going, that this is CDA/village money, not anything that would result from the bid, not from their coffers in any way. Not that they really have any, but.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, then I will withhold. Then I'm good. Thank you, Trustee Carpenter.
And who's administrating it?
Great question.
Peter, do you want to take that one?
I would say that the bid director is carrying most of the weight with respect to reaching out to the business community, gathering the applications, making sure everybody's aware of it, informing the public, and is the first review in that process. And then that is, those applications are passed to village staff, who does a second review on it. And then all those applications that are clearly within the eligibility criteria are laid out. And then any that are outside the eligibility criteria that the bid and village staff feel need to be put in front of the CDA for their final determination, that is done as well. So CDA conducts their final review of the whole thing, both the clearly eligible ones, I guess, as well as making determination on any businesses that are in a gray area or it's sort of unclear from the program documentation how it should be handled. CDA makes final determination of that.
And Chair Warren, in last conversation, I heard some oversight group. It was going to be someone from the board, a board member. Is that still in the program?
Yes. Oversight is an elected official along with the CDA chair. An elected official an elected official. I believe it's an elected official on the CDA and the chair of the CDA. Don't quote me on it. Peter, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
CDA chair and a designated elected official member of the CDA. So yes.
Yes, correct.
So do we have any other comments from trustees?
Yeah, I had an initial comment. I mean, there was quite a bit of discussion of targeting small businesses, women and minorities that the village and the CDA and the bid really make an effort to get out the word. And if they aren't getting an applicant from a business they think they should be getting it from, reach out and see it, make sure they got the materials. Do they need help with the materials? Explain anything, encourage them to put in their application. And if there's a need to ask more questions later, the bid and CDA can ask, but at least make sure they get an application in. So, I mean, I think we need to really reach out to make sure we get the small businesses applying for this money and encourage them to apply. So that's just.
Yeah.
And this is Trustee Backhorst again.
Thank you, Trustee Backhorst.
I just wanted, I didn't hear if Mike had mentioned that should be the bid that does the outreach. And if so, I'm assuming, and maybe my assumption is wrong here, that the bid would only reach out to bid members. Because I think that, I wouldn't make the bid responsible for reaching out to those who choose not to become members of the bid.
Well,
This is Peter Hammond.
Peter, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's a good point, and there is no sort of, I guess, specific documentation on this actual process, but I would say this is on everybody's plate to do over the next whatever time period we have. I would say all the village board members, all the CDA members, all the bid members, everybody should be making. I mean, I think we all are thinking the same way, that we want everybody who is eligible to apply for this, or to know that it's available to them, and they make the determination whether they apply or not. So I agree. I think it should be a full court press of everybody that has connections and contacts, because I agree the bid, you could argue, doesn't necessarily know all the businesses in Shorewood to even reach out to. And so, again, I have no formal documentation or anything to present to the board that we will do that, but I would say that is definitely the intention of this program.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Any other comments from the trustees?
Mayor Warren, just a clarification question, and I wanted to pass along a comment from a small business who asked me to. When Trustee Backhorst asked, are we only reaching out to bid businesses? I would like clarification on that, because I think Chair Hammond said the opposite. So bid members are those within the bid district. So they're automatically a member. They can't not be a member based on how we set it up. So the business district, it has a defined boundary, but there are businesses within the community that do not fall within that boundary. And I just want clarification as my first question to, are we reaching out to any and all businesses in Shorewood?
This is Peter Hammond again. I will be happy to answer. This is not a bid program. This is a CDA program that is available to all eligible businesses under the criteria of the program, regardless of their participation in the bid or not.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question.
Can I jump in?
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, this is Mark Emanuelson again. And again, the program criteria very clearly outlines the program administration, the CDA and the bid director shall be responsible for disseminate program information to all Shorewood businesses to the best of their ability, using a bids mailing list and email contact list and any other methods that may be appropriate to help achieve that objective. And I just want to share with the group that we are prepared upon dotting all our I's and crossing all the T's if the program is approved, to also do a mailing list out of the planning department with all the occupancy permit holders, as well as what the bid is going to do. So I'm very hopeful that we're going to be double or triple hitting many people along the process to try to make sure we get this information out as widespread as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mark.
And then my second question comes from it's actually my landlord, but he's also a tenant. So owns the building, but then rents the space from his company. And is that an eligible business? He holds a business permit occupancy.
This is Mark again. I would, just off the top, I would say that's unclear, and that would go to the CDA for review should he apply.
Okay.
So in the interest of time, seeing that we're already an hour into the discussion, I'm going to give trustees. I'd like to take some. I agree with Trustee Amenta. I'd like to take some public comment, but I also want to respect. I also want to make sure that we don't have a hours and hours long discussion here. So I'll look around the room once more for the trustees. Then I'd like to go to the public. Okay, seeing nothing. I'm going to open it up for public comment. I can't really see you to call on you, so please be reminded that please state your name and your address prior to your comments. First of all, thank you for attending. Secondly, thank you for adding your voice and adding your comments. Please state your name and address prior to providing comment. And my apologies. I'm going to try to work through these quickly. I'd like to get to a vote here. And we still have a lot of business to do once we get into the regular agenda. So I'd like to get. My apologies for being quick and prudent. But I do want to open it up. So with that, I'll stop talking and defeating my own purpose. And let's open it up.
Arthur Ursink.
Go ahead.
So Arthur Ursink, 4105 North Morris Boulevard. I just wanted to thank all you trustees and the CDA for coming together on this. This is just a very critical time for our business community, and this is what's needed right now. So I appreciate the collaboration. I think everybody's done their due diligence here, and as the bid chair, this is the right move, and I think a lot of businesses. Our business community will have a lot of faith, I think, in Shorewood now and moving into the future, and this will really help, keep our business district strong here in Shorewood. So I really appreciate everybody coming together. Thank you guys so much for this. I know it's premature, we haven't voted yet, but just the sound of everybody's voice, I think this is something that everybody wants. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming together.
Thanks, Arthur. Anyone else from the public?
Yep, this is David Price, 4515 and 4517 North Auckland. Just wanted to reiterate Arthur's thank you to the CDA and to the new leaders on the bid board as well. Obviously, Arthur's been there for a while, and then with Steph coming in, thank you for you guys working so hard together, and the village board showing kind of how this process went really well. I mean, it did take a little bit longer, but the way it's narrowed down has shown me that the collaborative has actually been beneficial to make sure that we do this and distribute these in the correct manner. So yeah, thank you all very much, and I'll let everything keep moving.
And this is Peter Hammond. Just rumor has it that 3 Lions is buying beers for everybody when they finally open up again. So just put that out there.
I'll tell you what, that sounds fun.
I heard that.
It might be expired stock. There might be some expired stock for you at the time.
Any other comments from members of the public?
Hello.
All right. Hello?
Yes, hello. My name is Geraldine L. Skaggs. My business address is 3970 North Oakland Avenue.
Oh, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, hi, everyone. I wanted to express appreciation for all the hard work that has gone into making this available to small businesses. It looks like, unfortunately, I may not be able to take advantage of this due to the changes that were made to the criteria. And so, but nevertheless, I know a lot of work went into preparing this and everything, and I am appreciative to be able to listen in and to see what I could possibly take advantage of. So I was a little late joining in, so I missed some of the conversation that occurred. But I'm in the mental health business, so I did hear the change that was made with regard to that for eligibility. But like I said, nevertheless, I am very thankful and appreciative of all the hard work that everyone has put into making this possible for small businesses in Shorewood.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? And I would remind everyone to mute. We're getting a little bit of feedback here.
Oh, may I
Hi,
please
this
speak?
is John Phillips.
So go ahead.
I have a question for you. I'm at 4001 North Oakland, the new Sage Specialty Pharmacy, and my question is regarding the idea of the rent. So my landlord and I have come up with an agreement where, because of the capital improvements that I put into the space that I've built out, I'm getting, that's going towards my rent, so that I'm not paying rent right now because I'm, adding to the value of the building. Would that be considered, if I applied for this assistance, as good faith payment towards rent? And I'll go back on mute.
Peter, do you
want
to field that one?
Peter Hammond from the CD. I'm not sure I understood the question exactly, but I guess just to be clear, it is the business's rent payments that are the determinant of how much money is available to them, but the proceeds are not only available for purposes of rent payments to the landlord. Those proceeds can be used for any business purpose that the business owner deems is the most relevant to them. So again, in the original proposal it was designed specifically for rent payments, but we have now modified that to say that's what the determination is as to how much money is available to the business, but the business can use that for, again, wherever they feel is the most appropriate. Let me know if that did not answer the question.
That did. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Hearing none. We have, and bringing it back to the group of trustees here. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
This is Trustee Backhorst.
Go ahead.
I know I was looking for the list of businesses, and I don't recall seeing or hearing the Sun Seekers or those kind of businesses, or the Atrium. Are those all inclusive?
This is Peter Hammond from the CDA. Again, I don't want to. I believe, again, those businesses are in-person businesses that transact business. They can't really do that virtually, so I would consider them to be included in the eligibility criteria.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. I know that we had a discussion about moving some businesses from one category to the other, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Trustee Backhorst. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. I guess we'll do a roll call vote. Does anyone need the motion read back? Okay. I will. Trustee McKay.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye. Aye.
Trustee Backhorst.
Aye.
Trustee Maurer.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion carries 6-0.
Oh, and I abstain. Oh, Trustee Warren and I abstain.
Oh, and President Rosick, let the record reflect that President Rosick abstained.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Warren, for acting as chair for that item.
Thank you.
And thank you to the bid, and thank you very much to the CDA and the board members who worked together on that item and the public. And I'm very excited about the program. We'll now move on to the next agenda item, which is the number 5 consent agenda item. Items under the consent agenda by the judgment of any village board member. A consent agenda item needs discussion. The item can be removed from the consent agenda. Is there any items? Well, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Trustee
Second.
McKay.
And are
Second,
there
trustee
any?
Warren.
Trustee Maher, second.
Okay. Who moved? Trustee McKay?
Yes.
Are there any items that trustees would like to be removed?
Yeah, I'd like to remove item A and item C.
A and C, okay. Anybody else? So we have a motion to approve and a second to approve the consent agenda with items A and C. Is that correct? Removed?
Yes.
Okay. Let's just go around the table since this is virtual. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Trustee Warren?
Aye.
Trustee McKay?
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst?
Yes.
Trustee Maher?
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter?
Aye.
And did I say Trustee Amenta?
Aye.
And did I forget anyone? Okay. And I'm an aye. So 7-0. Let's move to the first agenda item or consent agenda item that was removed. 6A, accept presentation of accounts, April 20th, 2020. Trustee Amenta?
Yeah, I'm looking on here now and I can't find it, but I noticed that we're still paying the contractor for crossing guards, and I was questioning why we are paying for that service that we're no longer receiving.
Mark? Is Mark around? Rebecca? Hello?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Mark does not appear to be on the call. Chief Nimmer is on the call.
It's on page 2 under public safety, $4,772.
This is Chief Nimmer. I believe that is from the last month. So we had crossing guards, I believe, through March 17th
That's it.
or the
Oh, yeah, it says
21st.
through the 14th. So, but we're not paying it anymore after the March 14th?
That is correct. We will no longer be paying for the rest of the year. Correct.
Okay, great, thank you. I'll move to accept the, what do we call it? The presentation of accounts.
Trustee Maher, second.
Okay, so Trustee Amenta moves and Trustee Maher seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Trustee Amenta?
Aye.
Trustee Maher?
Aye.
Okay, Trustee McKay?
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst?
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter? Aye. Trustee Warren, did I ask?
You did not. Aye.
Okay, and I'm an aye. Did I miss anyone? Okay, seeing none, that's a 7-0 acceptance. We'll move to the next removed agenda item, which was 5C, consider village board minutes, March 2nd, 2020. Trustee Amenta.
Yeah, on page 6, I did go back and review the tape of the comments of Ms. Lipozovic. And the addition that I had made was she stated that she represents the school board. She actually said, she did not say she represented the school board. She said she was speaking on behalf of the school board. So I'd like to make that amendment.
Okay. I'm okay with that. Is any further discussion on that?
Yeah, this is Trustee Bockhorst.
Sure.
Yeah. So we're changing it to she was representing the school board?
No, we're changing it to she was speaking on behalf of the school board, which are her exact words.
Okay, and I don't understand why we're adding this into the minutes. I think we got an email from her today stating that she does not speak on behalf of the school board, so I just don't understand the justification for this change.
Well, I have a question.
And I don't support this change.
Okay, thank you. Trustee, is Attorney Bear here?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
he's on the
My
call.
other question. Okay, thank you. My question is, and I do want clarification. Minutes reflect what was said, not what was intended. Is that correct? What do minutes
Nathan,
reflect?
you need to unmute your microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't, the button wasn't responding there quickly.
Okay.
At any rate, right, that's generally correct. The level of detail, though, is relatively discretionary for each body. The general intent and purpose of taking the minutes is so that someone coming from the outside who wasn't at the meeting could have an idea of the actions that were taken by the board and the general understanding of the discussion that led to the decision. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a recitation of every comment that was made by every individual that spoke.
I didn't ask that, but when there is a comment,
Let him speak, please.
I think my question was not clarified. My clarification.
I don't think he
is-
answered. I think he's done.
And I will clarify my question for him. The clarification is, if it is in the minutes and the wording is incorrect based on what was said, is it appropriate to change?
Well, as we're doing now, during the process where we approve the previous minutes?
Yeah,
In other
so
words-
whatever's written in there, and if it's not stated correctly based on what someone said on a video, wouldn't we usually change it to the correct language?
Well, certainly, that's a discretionary decision. This is your time to do that, absolutely. And again,
Okay.
the level of detail is up to the body collectively.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion?
So what exactly is the wording on that now? Is it changed from the draft we have in our board packet?
Yes, I'm saying that she did not, instead of saying she represents the school board, what she said, if you watch the video, is she's speaking on behalf of the school board. So I don't want to say she didn't come up and say she represented the school board. That's fine. But she did say she was speaking on behalf of them. Look, when someone from the school board comes and speaks that way, in a way of chastising members of the village board, there's only 2 local boards here. Some people like to talk about, I just think we need to reflect the comment that was made. It's significant for someone to come to speak on behalf of the school board and shake their finger at us and tell us how we should be ashamed of ourselves. That's significant, okay? Intergovernmental relations, that's important to express here in the minutes.
This is Trustee Bockhorst.
Yes, Trustee Bockhorst.
So I also agree with what Attorney Bear said, which was that minutes do not have to reflect all the statements. So the easy solution to this, to appease all of us, would just be to strike that from the minutes and carry on, because we have a lot of business tonight, and I think there's a lot of personal bull that's going into, how these are being posed, and so let's just strike what she said as far as representing or otherwise. She's a resident of this community. Just put that in her address up there.
Okay.
Because we like to pontificate and we like to use this as our political moment, the minutes, which is really a waste of taxpayer time. And we have a pandemic right now. So the last thing we really need to do is bicker about this.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And any other trustees before I make my final comment?
I just had one thing, at the end of the day, I guess my position has always been that, and this comes from my background and my jobs, but I would think the minutes should be shorter, not longer. That said, if we're going to have more detailed minutes, I don't have a problem with them. I mean, it's on the tape, so whatever's said on the tape, it's, you know, it can reflect that. You know, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, going in, I would prefer the minutes to be very short. We don't do it that way. I accept that. But I'm also not going to argue with just reflecting what was said on the tape either. I mean, either way, I do agree with Trustee Bachhorst. We have a lot of agenda items to cover. So I just want to move this agenda item forward however we do it.
I want to say I have a problem. I have a problem with someone from the school board coming and telling me I should be ashamed of myself. I have a problem with that. That's poor intergovernmental relations. It's poor behavior. It's a lack of civility, and it needs to be represented in the minutes.
Well, that sounds like then, Trustee Amenta, that you need to work out your issues with that person directly. No, I'm sorry.
She came and worked out her issues at our board meeting in public, and they can be in the minutes.
Okay, listen to me. I have not called upon either of you. So let me see who's next. Trustee Bachhorst.
Yes.
Would you like to say something?
Yes, I would like to say that. Let's. What?
We get 2 rounds. Your final comment.
My final comments are thus. In this order, and there is no importance in the order in which I'm dictating this. Number 1, our minutes, I agree completely with Trustee Warren. Well, not completely. Trustee Warren says he's going to accept the length that we spend in the minutes and all that we must record. I would state that I agree with that. In that kind of manner, let's just strike the comments, move on. That's actually all I need to say. And also, no, secondly, Trustee Amenta, work out your issues with the school board member, not during our committee.
Okay, thank you for your final comment. Trustee Amenta, do you have a final comment?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have to pull these. It would have just passed on the consent agenda, which was overstating because it was mistaken to say she represented the school board. I pulled it to accurately reflect her statement that she was speaking on behalf, which I think is less of a statement than saying she represents the school board. So I could have not pulled it, and this just would have passed, okay? I pulled it to make it more accurate. It is significant for a former school board member to come and make that kind of a comment to the village board, to pretend it didn't happen because of whatever. It happened. It's significant. It's intergovernmental relations, and it's not something that should just be glossed over.
Thank you for your final comment. Is there any other trustee before I make my final comment?
Yeah, President Rozak.
Yeah,
Trustee Carpenter. After sitting on the Plan Commission and seeing their level of detail in their minutes, I feel like it is very helpful to be able to have highly detailed minutes, just because I can sit down and read them and go through them and understand what happened. And yes, I know that there is video available, but it is very helpful to have the detailed minutes. I do think that this particular comment, my remembrance of it is a little bit different. I actually think that it was, the comment was made during the discussion regarding Shorewood today, and I'm not sure that was exactly when it was made, but that is exactly my recollection of it, was that she told us that we should be ashamed of ourselves, and I do think that is something that should be noted in the minutes. So, I do support that. I do think that we need to be consistent and move forward with, are we having detailed minutes or are we not? Because I think that there is some ambiguity regularly in our minutes.
Thank you, Trustee Carpenter. Any other trustee that would like to make a comment before I make mine?
This is Trustee Marr. I was not present at the meeting, so I'm going to abstain from voting, but I think that the comment should be removed. I don't think it adds to the minutes, and there's a lot of other people's comments, and it just says, it states she supports the issue that was before the board. So I'm going to abstain.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
President Rozak, it's Rebecca.
No. Oh, hi, Rebecca. Yep. We're on our final comment.
Okay. Would you mind if I had just noted a comment for the record, just because it was brought to my attention that it wasn't clear? The red line minutes that were included with the packet, the red line component was provided by Trustee Amenta.
Right.
Thank you.
Got that?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So my final comment is, if I went to the school board or any other organization that we partner with, BID, CDA, and I made a comment on behalf of the village board or whatever the correct language is, I would hope that it would be in the minutes. That would be my intent, because I'm saying that I'm representing an organization in our community that is significant, the village board. Now, whether or not I have the right to make that statement, I'm not judgmental on that part. I'm just saying, if I did have permission and I went on behalf of the village board and they did not put it in the minutes, I would be very disappointed. So therefore, I am in full support of Trustee Amenta's addition, along with making sure that that is absolutely the correct language, which she has taken the time to do, because you don't want to screw that up when it comes to intergovernmental relations. So with that, we will now take a vote on the April, well, let me just see here, it's 5C. It is the March 2nd, 2020 minutes as they read and as amended by Trustee Amenta.
What about audience comments from the community?
No, this is a consent agenda item. We are talking about minutes. Those are in the hands of the board. So let me go around the table. Trustee Warren.
Well, Allison, are you making a motion? You need to make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll
Go
second
ahead,
your
Trustee.
motion. No.
Okay. Yes, I made the motion to adopt the minutes
and I'll
as
second
and amended by Trustee Amenta. Okay. So we have a motion by President Rozak, a second by Trustee Amenta. I'm going to go around the table. Trustee Carpenter. Yes. Trustee McCaig.
Yes.
Trustee Maher.
Abstain. I was absent from the meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Thank you. Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst.
No.
Trustee, did I miss anyone? I'm an aye.
I'm an aye. I'm an
okay.
aye.
So the vote is 5 ayes, 1 abstention, and 1 nay. Motion passes. We will. Do we need to take do we need to do anything with the full consent agenda now? No.
No, that passed.
That passed. Okay. Next item on the agenda is 7. Nope, sorry. 6. Items removed. We did that. We're on to B. No, sorry. Are we now on 7?
Right.
There's no public hearings, so we can go to 8.
Okay, so we finished 6. Okay, so if there's no public hearings today, we will move on to number 8, citizens to be heard. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to talk about a item on the agenda or off the agenda, please feel free to step forward and say your name and address.
Arthur Ersink, 4105 North Morris Boulevard.
Hello, Arthur.
Hi. Before the meeting's adjourned, I just wanted to send out a huge amount of gratitude to Trustee McCaig and Trustee Maher. I know this is their last meeting, and their service to the community has been incredible, very valuable, and will be greatly missed. The knowledge base, the history, and their passion for the residents is unparalleled. And I think in the future we could only hope to to follow in their footsteps, but we have some very big shoes to fill. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for your service to our community. You will be missed, but I'm sure you will also be very present. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Arthur. Just a clarification question for Rebecca. We do give out our awards, unfortunately, for Trustee McCaig. I feel bad that we are not in person, but do we not give out rewards, like awards to trustees that have served full terms?
We do have a policy that speaks to our recognition, and in this case, they would have been presented with their proclamation and also been invited to our volunteer annual gathering, which would, for those of you who recall, which typically occurs the second week of May. We do that collaboratively for volunteers with the school district and honor those at that time. We need to modify our strategy this year, and so we're looking forward to working with the school district to see what an alternative may be potentially sometime in the fall.
Okay, so Trustee McKay, we will definitely be invited, and so will Trustee Maher, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the audience that would like to make a comment? Okay, seeing none. Oh, hello? Is that just feedback? I'm sorry. I think so. Okay. So we will now move on to new business. 9A, consider ordinance 3010, repealing and replacing section 9, pawnbroker and, sorry, I'm reading by my phone here, pawnbroker and dealer, requirements of chapter 404, pawnbroker and secondhand dealers of the Shorewood Municipal Code. Attorney Bear.
I believe that this is Chief Nimmer's item, if he'd like to speak to it.
Okay, sure. Chief Nimmer.
He's on mute. There we go.
I am here. So in your packet, we have the amended ordinance that we're proposing. And essentially what it does is it allows the business owner themselves to enter the information into what's called NUPERS. It's just a program, an online web page that the jeweler would enter the description of the item into that program, and then it's searchable by our officers. That essentially is the only thing that changes. Right now, we're handing these cards out, going to pick them up, bringing them back, and having an employee enter them into the same system. And all this is doing is taking out the middleman in this process. And we talked to the 3 business owners that this would apply to, and they all have computers and internet access and are willing to participate in this program. And I'll open it up for any questions, or if Attorney Bear wants to add anything.
Can I ask just what is the purpose of it?
Sure. It's searchable by the officers by their computer, so we can log in. And so when we get a report of stolen jewelry or stolen TV, instead of having to go get the actual sheets or the cards from the store, the detective would just go online and search for 24 karat gold ring to see if any of those have been pawned at our stores, and it just eliminates any need for anybody from our department to have to enter that information into the system.
Sure, and I will abstain because I am a secondhand dealer, but my question would be, is it every secondhand dealer? Is it a consignment shop, or is it just a pawn shop?
No, it's very specific to the 3 coin shops that we have, and Attorney Bear can talk to this, but it doesn't deal with clothing or those types of items. It basically deals with jewelry, TVs, and those types of things.
Most consignment shops have jewelry, but okay, Attorney Bear.
Thank you. I can see where there might be a little bit of confusion, because under the local municipal ordinance, a secondhand clothing store would have to have a license from the municipality. I think it's $28 or $30 a year. But under the statute has a different framework for businesses where traditionally they've seen stolen items appear at secondhand shops, and the only secondhand store, or the only secondhand business that would be affected by the state regulation would be one that sold fur, either furs or fur-related clothing. That's specifically identified in the statute. So any secondhand store that's just selling regular clothing is not going to, they don't fall under the state regulation in any way, shape, or form. And if you think about it, the philosophy behind the existence of this regulation is such that somebody goes and steals a big screen television, or they steal an ATV, or they steal something, jewelry, and then it shows up. They want to be able to check the online database for the entire state to see if anybody's tried to unload that at a pawn shop or a secondhand store in the next coming weeks or days. That type of thing you really don't see with just regular clothing. So if you think about sort of the philosophy behind it, it kind of makes more sense. But yeah, the only thing that would come under this, under the state statute, under the regulation, would be pawn shops, and then the secondhand dealers that deal specifically in jewelry, or the other items specifically identified in the state statute. So it would only affect those three businesses in the group that are coming under it now.
But that's not true, because the application does not ask if a secondhand dealer like myself, which is why I'm abstaining, sells fur or jewelry. So I am not turning in cards, and I sell both.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with your specific business or what you sell or don't sell, but I'm just telling you what the state regulatory framework is. It would not.
I don't want to turn myself in here because I didn't know the law. I'm just saying, technically under the state statute, then you would need on that application something that says something about fern jewelry, because retreads sold both. Yeah, I think. But anyways, just for the future, I'm telling you now, I sell both.
Well, and then, I think if you look under the state regulations, under the admitted code, as opposed to the statutes, I believe that there's some distinction between costume jewelry versus someone's, pawning their wedding ring or their $5,000, engagement ring.
Right. I understand. So, okay. All right. I just want to give a heads up to the clerk that you might want to add that in case we have any further applications. Any other questions from the trustees?
I had a question. So this database that has all these items listed on it, there's no subscription fee or cost for us to access that database?
No, it's free to the village and free to the business.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other further questions from trustees? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion?
This is Trustee Maher. I'd make a motion to approve ordinance number 3010, an ordinance repealing and replacing section 9, pawnbrokers and dealers requirements of chapter 404, pawnbrokers and secondhand dealers of the Shorewood Municipal Code.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Who was that? Trustee Carpenter?
Yes.
Okay, so a motion by Trustee Maher, a second by Trustee Carpenter. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go around the table. Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Bockhorst.
Yes.
Trustee McCaig. Trustee McCaig, are you there?
She's motioning yes. She's giving a thumbs up. I don't know if that counts as an aye.
Okay, that's an aye. Trustee Amenta, I can't remember if I heard you. Trustee Carpenter. Okay, and I'm abstaining. And
Trustee Maher, yes.
Oh, Trustee Maher is a yes. Okay. So we have all ayes, 6 ayes, and 1 abstention. Motion passes. Thank you, Chief. The next item under Is someone talking? Okay.
Nope.
The next item under new business is 9B. Consider ordinance 3411, an ordinance amending subsection D, bond oath of section 2, municipal judge of chapter 31, court municipal of the Shorewood Municipal Code to eliminate the bond requirement. Yes, the bond requirement. Mark?
Mark is not on the call, but I'd be happy to tee this up. It's very brief. Our statutes are a bit antiquated, and years ago, many years ago, decades, they put in a requirement for a $1,000 bond for municipal judge. In 2017, the statutes were amended to eliminate that antiquated requirement, as most municipalities do carry insurance with this regard, as do we. And so we are simply amending our ordinance to eliminate the antiquated requirement because our insurance currently covers this area.
It currently covers the area. Okay. Any discussion from trustees? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Trustee.
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead.
I move to adopt an ordinance amending section 2D of chapter 31 of the village code to eliminate the bonding requirement for the municipal judge and alternatively cover the judge under the village's existing insurance policy.
Okay, trustee Warren made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Maher. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go around the table. Trustee Warren?
Aye.
Trustee Maher?
Aye.
Trustee Bachworth? Trustee Bachworth? I can't see anybody, so.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Okay. Trustee McKay?
Yes.
Trustee Menta?
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And did I miss anyone? Okay, seeing none, 7-0 is the motion, and the motion carries. We will now consider new business item number C. Is this correct? Yes. Consider next steps for affidavit of interest of parking lot agreement between the Village of Shorewood 4057 Wilson Drive and Flexington LLC 4121 Wilson Drive. Rebecca?
President Rozek, I'm actually going to defer this item to Attorney Bayer.
Okay, Attorney Bayer.
Good evening. So as you, I'm sure you saw in the memo, I won't rehash everything that's in the memo, but after the discussion, and I believe it was the March meeting, there was a committee meeting with a couple of the trustees, Trustee Maher and Trustee Warren participating to discuss further what might be the next steps. And one of the things that we discussed was the fact that if we wanted to have any kind of parking on the north end of the existing police station, we would need a continued agreement to get access from the neighboring property, simply because the space between the end of the police department building and the property line was so narrow that it was a practical impossibility to either really put a driveway in there, or even if you could, you couldn't park cars in a north-south fashion. You'd have to park them just literally next to the building, and you'd only be able to get one car over there anyway. So really the two possibilities were just leaving that green space, or alternatively reaching some kind of parking agreement with the new tenant. The other goal that was discussed as being prioritized is getting rid of the current obligation that the village had left over from the previous tenant with the neighbor there. Currently, under the existing agreement, the village has a responsibility to maintain and pave and plow and all those other things on a shared parking lot, the majority of which is on the neighboring property, actually. So factoring all those items in, we looked at it, and I was given some directive by the subcommittee come up with a different proposal that could be considered by the board. So what we did is, if you see the diagram that's attached to the memorandum, we've reserved, we've done a couple of different things. We reserved some spots exclusively for use by the village, and it also includes a handicap accessible spot, as well as a walkway on the north side of the police station building that would not only access the doorway that is on the eastern end, that is right in front of the handicap accessible spot, but also to give access to another door that is on the west end of the building that accesses space that currently is not actually being used. And we've confirmed with F Street Group that that walkway, of course, would meet all accessibility requirements with respect to the ADA, as well as that that spot there. So I think that the way that it is really going to work out is the village is going to have 3 parking spots that it otherwise would not have been able to have at all because of this agreement. One of them being a handicap accessible spot, and also giving up their responsibility to maintain it. F Street would take over the responsibility to maintain and plow and all those other things. And the village would still have an accessible walkway and those 3 parking spots. And then the remainder of the spots would be used for guests of the F Street Group property. So that was the directive from the subcommittee. And of course, that is subject to approval by the full board. And so it really, I think with the group that did the work, the subcommittee group, I think was really looking at those 2 options. Either it's going to have to be left completely as green space, or this is the alternative proposal. And some of the trustees that were on that subcommittee may want to weigh in on those options as well.
Trustee Warren, would you like to weigh in?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Actually, I would defer this one to Trustee Maher, who is taking the lead much more so than I am, and he's been kind of key in some of the correspondence and asking questions. So I would defer to him if you don't mind, President Rosick.
Okay, Trustee Maher.
Yeah, one of our concerns was to make sure that we preserve access to the potential community room in the back of the building. When we first got the packet in February, it was unclear how you would access the back doorway. Now it's been clarified, and the developer has committed and confirmed that in the final design, that walkway from the front of the building will be ADA accessible. So we will have an accessible route to that back area. And which is good, and we'll also have 3 spots. It is 2. If we did not reach this agreement, we would have maybe 1 pull-in spot, but this gives us 3 spots, and also it relieves us of the responsibility to maintain the space. The developer has also confirmed that the thresholds to both doorways is ADA accessible, and they've committed to that in their design. Also, there is a electric pole, there's 2 electric poles at the back of the lot, a line of parking spots. There is a possibility in the future, if and when we do the community room, to have the east pole relocated. There may be some cost with that, but that may, if needed, would free up some space between 2 parking spots on the current diagram. That would provide a little more access to that doorway if it was needed. But so I think there's enough flexibility definitely in here, and the developer has shown a commitment to work with us. So I am comfortable with the final arrangement we have being presented to and authorizing for the village attorney to move forward on.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Maher, for the summary. Any trustees have questions?
I just had so the cost of the walkway on the side of our building, the developer's putting that in, it's not on us to do that.
Trustee Maher?
Oh, go ahead.
Nathan, go ahead.
Sure, that'll be part of the that'll be written into the final agreement that'll come back to you for final approval. But yes, I'm glad you asked that question because I don't think it was in the memo. But we wanted to make sure that first, that conceptually the board was comfortable with this general framework, and then of course we will iron out all the details, and then once again bring back for final consideration to this board an actual agreement that we will ask the president to execute, and then you'll have an opportunity to see all of the details that are in the agreement at that time. So thank you for that question.
Trustee Mentor, anything else?
No.
Okay, any other trustees? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion?
Trustee Maher, I would make a motion to direct the village attorney to develop a new parking lot agreement between the village and F Street Group, which is intended to replace the existing parking agreement that these parties inherited from the previous owner of the respective properties, pursuant to the terms and conditions as laid out on the accompanying memo from the village attorney attached to this agenda, and for the village attorney to bring it back to the board for final execution.
I'll second.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, did you want to add in with, with the addition of noting that this developer will pay? Do we need that? Because it's not in the memo. I just was wondering.
That's understood. That'll be
okay.
That will, yes, that whether it's explicitly stated or not, that will be conveyed as part of the final written agreement that'll be brought back to the board.
Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee Maher and a second by Trustee Wesley Warren. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will go around the table. Trustee Bockhorst. Trustee Bockhorst. I'll come back to Trustee Bockhorst. Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Maher.
Aye.
Trustee Amenta.
Aye.
Trustee McKay.
Aye.
Trustee, I'm an aye. Trustee Bockhorst. Trustee Carpenter. Aye. And Trustee Bach is the only person I left off so far. Trustee Bockhorst. Is she? Can anyone see her? Or?
It's really raining out there. Wow.
We can't see her, President Rosick, on the screen. There's some, and I don't see her specifically listed in the call.
Oh, is that her? Trustee Bockhorst?
Yes.
Oh.
Sorry, I lost it for a moment.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, so we have a 7-0 vote. Motion carries. Let me get back to the agenda. Sorry about that. It's on mute. All right, so the next item on our agenda is reports of village officials. Village President, there's a proclamation that I'm to read, but I don't have it in front of me. So it's Arbor Day on Friday, April 24th of 2020. So I look forward to celebrating all of our natural environment. And I'm trying to think if there was anything else significant, and I can't remember at this moment. So it might come back to me. So I will go ahead and hand it over to the manager. Oh, no, trustees. I'm sorry, village trustees. Anybody have anything to report?
Not so much in the way of a report, but just wanted to echo some of the things that Arthur said earlier. Thank you to both trustees Maher and McCaig. It's been a pleasure serving with you over the course of the last, serving on the board with you over the course of the last 2 years. And happy trails. I would go to a beer with both of you, but I think that'll have to wait for a couple months. So we'll get that done sometime over the summer, hopefully.
Yes, and I forgot, that's what I was going to mention. And I also wanted to congratulate our two new trustees and board members. I am looking forward to our discussion. I know I missed it on Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember. So I'll be calling you shortly, but congratulations and welcome to the board. Any other trustees?
Trustee Carpenter? Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you both to Trustee Maher and Trustee McKay. Your service has been greatly appreciated to our community, and it's been wonderful to work with both of you. So enjoy some extra free time and retirement. And I'm sorry that we have to say goodbye in this way. So hopefully, I mean, I feel like that's kind of an awful, I mean, I guess everything is different at the moment. So hopefully whenever we get back to our new normal, we can all celebrate your service together.
Yes, I just wanted to note that Trustee Carpenter did ask that we had an award ceremony, and unfortunately we could not tonight. Any other trustees?
Yes, this is Trustee Backhorst.
Trustee Backhorst. Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, I'd like to also say that this is actually, it's been a great time since I've been on the board. Trustee Maher has been there as well, and Trustee McKay was shortly thereafter appointed and then elected. So I really appreciate all of the work that you've both put into this. Trustee Maher, I cannot imagine another person that, and no offense to you, Trustee Warren, on this, that is able to find differences in, you know, even a budgetary report that's over 100 pages or a statement of accounts. It's quite amazing, your attention to detail. And Trustee McKay, I have learned more from you than any other person on this board or in any other public body. And I will be really sad to see both of you go. And I really appreciate, you know, the hard work that you've put in over the many years. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Backhorst. Is there any other trustees that have a report?
I would just like to thank, it's been a real pleasure serving with everyone, and I won't miss the late meetings and the reading, but I will miss our being with you and working through issues. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Maher. Any other trustees?
Yeah, I'll just say that I definitely feel like I've gotten more out of serving than I've put in, and I'm a much better person from everything that I've learned. So I just want to say thank you to all of you, and I will miss seeing all the great people that I've met by serving in this capacity. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Trustee McKay. You too.
Support. I really appreciate that as well.
Excellent. Any other trustees? Seeing none, I will move on to the village manager.
I simply want to echo the same notes of gratitude that were expressed for Trustee McKay and for Trustee Maher. It has been a true honor to be able to work for you, particularly my first 2 years here in Shorewood. And I just thank you so much for your service.
Excellent. Who is left? That's it. So do we have any items for future agenda?
This is Trustee Carpenter. I do.
Okay.
We've excuse me, all received several emails regarding making some changes to village streets to provide additional space for residents to practice social distancing but still enjoy the outdoor space. I have been running on the Oak Leaf Trail and can definitely attest to the increase in usership and finding it difficult to practice social distancing. And when I first got the email, I thought all those emails, I thought that it was like totally crazy. And then I started hearing more and more stories on NPR and throughout the country that there are a lot of municipalities doing this. So I reached out to Leanne to see what are our options and how could we make this happen, just because there is so few warm weather days here. So I would really like for us to, just like we did with the CDA, really think outside the box and think of some ways that we can not only survive this pandemic, but actually thrive. And so I'd like to see us, so I'd move to make a future agenda item, creating outdoor walking and biking space on closed village streets, and work to determine where those village streets are.
And you want it specific to village streets? Is that what your motion is? Or your future agenda item?
I don't know that we have jurisdiction over something that's not a village street, so I would assume that that's what that would have to be. I don't know, Rebecca, could you maybe clarify?
As all of you know, I sent out a rather detailed email to you on Friday evening reviewing the research and information that we've gathered from different agencies with respect to this regard. I guess in order to proceed forward with a request of this nature, you know, we have moved forward and made a request of Milwaukee County for the closure of Estherbrook Parkway, recognizing that that's not within our sole jurisdiction. The North Shore Health Department has advised against the closure of particular blocks and small areas that don't allow and facilitate moving through a particular space. In the other communities that have implemented street closures, they have done so to provide access to allow additional people to move through to different areas of their community. And the one that I was most intrigued by was Lake Drive, because ideally it would require also participation from some of our other communities neighboring us, and to the north and to the south and further up, and to provide a meaningful connection. The DOT has weighed in on that, and they have advised that unless the roadway is closed in ways that are going to meet their permitting requirements, because it is a state-owned highway, that they would not be willing to approve permits for that. I am on every day, or now Monday, Wednesday. Sorry, I heard background noise. I've also asked our other North Shore community counterparts, because of the curiosity on Lake Drive, whether they have received the same requests. They have not to date. Right now, the issue on the internal workings of the village would be what route would actually move people through, with the understanding that we also, on our local roads, have a significant amount of decrease in traffic. In speaking with the Bike Federation, there was a concern on their part of having the state close down the state trails, which would include the Oak Leaf. And they had requested that people who maybe more experienced riders who could maneuver through and find alternative routes, that they do so, because of the fact that the trails were being heavily used and people weren't adhering to social distancing, which is what the stay-at-home order comes into play with. So the challenge for us becomes with the advisement that closing local roads when there's not increased congestion and room to move, what would be an appropriate route to move through. We're also challenged from an enforcement standpoint.
So from hearing what you've said and from your memo, the reason I asked that question, Trustee Carpenter, was if we just limit it to village roads, we may not have a lot of options. So if you want to just, you know, inspect places within and surrounding our village that connect, you know, connections to our village that we could partner with, that might broaden the review for the future agenda item.
So my thought, because even before Rebecca's email had come out, you know, I knew that Estabrook was not in our jurisdiction as well, and I knew that Lake Drive being a state highway would, pose an issue and would not be something that would be possible. But the thought of, maybe I wasn't necessarily thinking so much for passing through, but having some sort of loop, which is what other municipalities have done. I believe it was Berkeley and in Denver, and I want to say, I can't remember if it was Portland or Seattle that did it as well, but they had just created a loop and closed, a large, bigger than a city block, if you will. And, I wonder if there's some opportunity for us to do that, even, to consider like streets with alleys that people could still get in and out of their homes. I'm just throwing out some ideas, just to make, especially having kids, it's very difficult for them to understand social distancing, in addition to the increase in users on the Oak Leaf Trail. I just don't, know how we can, to be honest, I don't know how the Oak Leaf Trail can continue to be open with what I will assume will be the continued increased usage. So I guess my thought also was, could we do a loop? Is that an option within the village?
Okay, so what I would ask is, I would support I would second the motion, but one of the things that we may want to investigate too, besides roads within our village, would be spaces on other jurisdictions' property, such as maybe the racetrack on the school district, or there may be other options if the health director is saying no and giving us reasons why. So if you want to broaden it, I'll second it, but otherwise another trustee could.
President Rosick, did you mention the school district?
I just mentioned it as an idea, not just limiting it to village roads.
So one thing that I did want to follow up and share is that my understanding is that the high school track is open. I know that that's an inquiry that we've received. We've also responded to that field because there have been complaints of people gathering there in some larger groups, but my understanding as well is that if people are adhering to social distancing when they're utilizing that facility, that has been available. One of the challenges with road closures is that we encourage people to, from a looping perspective, it'd be helpful to get an identification of how wide is that loop. We would be focusing people to go to a specific area. Who still would otherwise have the availability of the sidewalks and roadways that have low volume of vehicular traffic at this time.
Could I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Just because I think we're kind of getting a little far afield. This is sort of turning into a discussion as opposed to an item for future consideration. There's a couple of options. You can either give direction to staff or make a formal motion for an agenda item. And my suggestion would be to explore alternatives to create safe outdoor spaces, including but not limited to possible closure of streets or sidewalks or other areas of the municipality. And that would encompass every possible thing that you could look at, and then just go from there, because we're kind of delving into discussion as opposed to the future agenda item.
Trustee Carpenter,
yeah, I mean, I would support that motion. I think that makes perfect sense.
I'll second it. Does anybody have further discussion on the board? Seeing none, we'll go around the table and take a vote. Trustee Bachhorst.
Yes.
Okay, Trustee McKay. Oh, there she is.
I'm going to vote no.
Okay. Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Menta.
Aye.
Trustee Maher,
Aye.
Carpenter,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So did I miss anyone? If not, then the vote is 6-1, and we will add it to a future agenda when we have space. Thank you for bringing that up. Now, let me just see how it's written on the agenda.
President Rozek, I just want to interject. So with my understanding of the adding of this item, we'll look for Trustee Carpenter to lead the discussion on that item on the next future item under, that this will now hit an agenda. But I also just want to clarify that I will not be responding to any emails submitted from the public.
Responding to any email. Okay, until we have
Is that the correct understanding I should have at this time?
I know what you're saying. So are we going to we'll refer it to a committee, is that correct? Or does it go straight to board?
We're not having any committees right now.
Oh, I'm
committee's meeting.
Oh, okay. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that I will not be responding on behalf of the board with respect to this issue.
To citizens at the time until we have our further discussion. Okay.
Correct.
Okay,
thank you.
I think that is correct. And then to the board members, if you receive it, feel free to respond if you feel, to the residents, however you feel appropriate. And we will be having it on a future agenda, hopefully before the virus is over. Okay, and now I am trying to get to the next agenda. Do we just do a motion? I know we have a closed session.
This is Trustee Maher. I had a comment for an item for future consideration.
Oh,
The board had taken up some changes to Chapter 400 of the Parks ordinance, which I think it dealt with vendors in the park, but in addition, there was a small change added in the back about adding protection of a park building, resources, and vegetation. I'm a little concerned that the whole change package maybe not be moving forward very rapidly. The board may want to consider pulling out separately and implementing the protections for the park resources, which mirrors the Milwaukee County Parks protections, which was also called for in the village's the land management plan that we adopt. So I just want to make sure that let's remember that we at least deal with that part of the amendment to the parks ordinance. Thank you.
Are you proposing, Trustee Maher, a motion to separate the two?
I would make a motion that they should be, unless the entire package is going to be moving forward fairly soon, that they be broken apart and that the board deal just with that one section on protection of the park resources. Yes.
Okay, so there's a motion to separate unless, I don't know what it is, but we will use our discretion. Is there a second to his motion?
I'll second that. That's I obviously haven't had a chance to research this issue, but protection of parks sounds like something that we might want to prioritize, be able to pull out and mirror what the county's doing. I think you mentioned the mirroring Milwaukee County, Trustee Maher.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on a future agenda item in the absence of taking them up shortly together. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll go through the list. Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Maher.
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst. Trustee McKay.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Menta.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that future agenda item passes 7-0. Rebecca, can you help me? I'm trying to blow up your thing. Do we adjourn and then go into closed session? Or do we just go into closed session?
There would be a motion. You would need a motion to convene into closed session And then following that, the trustees will log off this publicly noticed call and they will log into the closed session call.
And then we reconvene into open session.
Following your closed session.
Okay, and what my main question is, when we reconvene, aren't we supposed to state what was discussed? Like, or if there was a motion made or if something occurred, or do we just say we're in open session and then motion to adjourn? I get confused on that.
If you're going to take any action, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
If you can't take any action in the closed session as a governing body, but if you just are discussing, performance evaluation, and there's no specific action that's going to come out of that.
All right. Well, say you give a salary adjustment. Do we have to take a motion in open session just in case?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I thought. Okay. So any other questions on that?
I had a question. You said we have to return to open session. Do we have to get back into the other video session, or can we just stay in the closed video session?
No, we have to go back into Rebecca.
You can, two options. Number one, there's only two items there's one item once you get back into open session, which is to adjourn. So we can record that motion for you and reflect it in the minutes. You are also available to call back into this call to make one motion and adjourn.
I prefer the easier one, which is to stay. Is that legal? To record it in the minutes? Attorney Bear?
Yes, my understanding is yes.
Okay. Any debate about that? Trustees feel differently? We'll just stay in closed session, and I think there's going to be a motion. And is it still legal if there is a motion in open session?
I'm sorry, my clarification on the motion was for an adjournment.
Right.
Not
so if there was a motion for any reason in open session, do we need to log out and log back in?
That would be my recommendation if you're going to take formal action other than adjourning.
Okay. So we'll make that decision once we get there to see if we have a motion. Okay, thank you for that advice. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I'll move to adjourn into closed session pursuant to section 19.851C to discuss the annual performance evaluation of the village manager.
Second. Okay, so I have a motion by Trustee Menta and a second by Trustee Maher.
McKay.
McKay. Okay. So we will go around the table. Any further discussion on that? Trustee Bockhorst. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Trustee McKay.
Yes.
Trustee Maher.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Carpenter. Aye. Trustee Menta.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Trustee Bockhorst.
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. So motion carries 7-0 to go into closed session. We are now in closed session.
We have to go to a different.
Oh yeah. So we don't have to adjourn, do we? We just hang up and go to a different place?
Yes.
Okay. I'll see everybody in 2 minutes on the next call.